It's another Manly Monday, and this Manly Monday, every week is Men's Mental Health week on Manly Monday, but it is June, and it is Men's Mental Health Month and Pride. We can have both. So I thought I'd sort of do maybe a double thing this week. I don't know. But I wanted to talk about the idea of protecting men. And when we talk about protection in modern parlance, a lot of the times we're not talking about physical, though, in some places, yes, physical protection is still lacking. I want to talk about emotional protection today, or social protection, because this is a place I think that we can find some agreement that we do fail men culturally with this. And I've been thinking about this a lot in the context of this really, really disturbing trial going on in London, Ontario. I've mentioned it briefly before. It's basically like 5 members of a hockey team that are accused of sexually assaulting a woman during a drunken night in a hotel room years ago. It's finally gone to trial. But it's an interesting one because the case is she consented to sex with one guy. She, claims everything that happened after that was not something she wanted. And what strikes me, I'm not going to get into, who's right, who's wrong, that whole thing. The verdict is coming. It's a judge-only trial, which means the likelihood of a technical result goes way up. But the defense theory with these, they were 18 years old at the time. So technically men, but teenagers. She was 20. But, they were much larger than her. And it was 5 guys got charged for actually doing something sexual to this woman. But there were a lot more guys in the room. And the defense's theory is that even though the guy who originally had sex with her texted everybody saying, who wants to come to my room for a 3-way? Basically, come quick, something like that. Pardon the pun, that's not what he said. They were just there to get food, and there was this naked girl there, and she was begging for it, and so the guys who had sex with her, whether, orally or vaginally, or one guy apparently did the splits on her face, which is impressive, but there's no evidence that she consented to that. But they just took one for the team, literally. It's a hockey team. And assuming that's true, that there is this, women would never do that. Oh, yes, they would. Not under those conditions. Women get wild in strip clubs and on episodes of Yellow Jackets, but that would be considered what? Not out of, that is not out of the realm of reality that a woman would just, do stuff with guys because somebody gotta. It's weird that your friends are watching and you couldn't really stay aroused, but someone had to, that is seen as very different in the world of women than is presented with these men. But like I said, let's take them at their word for the purposes of this video. We'll see what the judge says. I'm very, very hesitant to judge reporting on trials because what comes out is very cherry-picked. If you look at the Johnny Depp trial, people who watched the trial got a very different impression of it than what you read in the media. So if you're not there, it's there's like bits and pieces. I have waffled back and forth on this one. We'll see what the judge says. But again, I'm not saying I think the victim is lying. I actually think the victim is telling the truth. What it's going to come down here is whether legally what happened met the legal requirements for consent in province of Ontario or it didn't. And like I said, let's give the men the benefit of the doubt. We can do better by our boys. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron if you like this content. Patreon.com/Leanna K. Or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it. Coffee.com/Leanna K. Okay, so again, this is just benefit of doubt. What's the problem with raising boys to have this attitude that, oh, if there's a girl there, somebody's got to fuck her. I don't know, this is weird. I don't really want to do this, but, you know, like, that is not protecting boys' feelings. It's not protecting boys' bodies. And it's not protecting boys' self-concept and sense of self-worth. And there is a real issue. I first became aware of this through speaking to members of Indigenous communities. That because, what I was told was because there's so many rites of passage that have been destroyed in Indigenous culture through, you know, colonialization, the residential schools and all that stuff, that the only way they feel like they have value is basically by being a sex object. And, you know, that's why I talk about the whole incel thing, involuntarily celibate. That's what the word is a short form for. You have sex, you are proper man. You don't or don't want to, something's wrong with you. And that is not protecting our boys and men. Now, if you are asexual or you're just not into with that particular person, that's awesome. That is my point. I don't tend to get beyond this talking to people because they're like, well, what if you want to? Okay. If you want to, cool. But, you know, let's do a little protecting of men the way we protect women, and not in a keep your legs closed, slut kind of way. It's like, look, certain environments are inherently unsafe. And if you're feeling pressured to have sex for any reason, whether it's by your friends or your hockey team or even your girlfriend, that is not good for you, and you have the right to say no. And we don't seem to teach boys that based on, well, not just this hockey team thing, which again, this is going by the defense theory that this is just normal behavior and it's reasonable behavior, and who wouldn't just fuck a girl in front of 8 of your friends? Okay, it's a bit weird, but guess I gotta. I mean, that's really... I talked about man stupid last week. That's another example of man stupid. Like, what, when you put it that way, it sounds bizarre. But, you know, the defense team, they have 5 different lawyers for 5 different men and their parents. And it was like, yep, this makes complete sense. And it's not just this that we see it with men. It's giving guys a hard time who don't feel comfortable, say, taking their shirt off at the beach or something like that. That is someone's right? Even bullying in school. You know, we talk about single-sex spaces somehow being safe, right? But they're not safe for boys. A lot of bullying goes on in the school bathroom. I'm not it's interesting because when I was in school, I grew up in a rough neighborhood, but bathrooms were checked during school hours precisely because it was partially a safety thing. You were not supposed to just hang out in the bathroom. Yeah, they were checking to see if kids were smoking too. But, bathrooms, like teachers of, male teachers would go in the boys' room, female teachers would go in the girls' room, and they'd check the bathrooms at certain times. And part of it was, I found out, a safety thing, just to see if something's going on there. But part of it was sex and part of it was smoking and all that stuff. But, now it just seems that bathrooms are free-for-alls with boys. All male spaces are not safe because of peer pressure and because of these normative behaviors. And any guy who is less comfortable being naked is treated like there's something wrong with them. And, unfortunately, guys do things that they're not comfortable doing, and then other guys make fun of them, and it's seen as just joking around. It's trash talk. But what it actually is a form of social coercion. If you're in on the joke and you think it's funny, that's cool. Right? If you don't, I got friends that, you see it on the Discord server all the time. The mods that I like, the mods make fun of me all the time, and it's fine. We're friends. It's cool. Like, everybody's in on the joke. It is funny. But if it bothered me, I would say something. And a lot of men feel like they can't. That's not going to create a feeling of social safety. And it's not going to make a guy end up with the impression that the world terribly cares about young men or older men. And it took me a long time to kind of connect with this, hearing men say, men are not protected, men are not protected, men are not protected. And I'm like, wait, because I go to facts and data and figures, and it took me probably too long to realize, no, they're not talking about that. They're talking about, it's like, this is like the male version of Me Too. It happened to me too, and nobody wants to talk about it. That sense that they just have to take emotional beatings and shame tactics and do things with their body via physically or having to do with some form of nudity or sexually, that they are not comfortable with and they are not okay with, and it just feels wrong, but do it to fit in, do it to be normal. And this is something that I believe should change. And this is going to be unpopular. And I know that. So hear me out, because everybody is an individual. And we can't, I don't want to go down this route, but for like the feminists or whatever watching who are looking at, get her, she's a pick-me. One, if you don't care about men's issues, I do. If you don't care about men's well-being, I do. You're never going to be able to teach consent with women to young men if their own consent, they're taught it's not relevant. If they're taught, well, if there's a girl who wants sex, you have to do it, they're not going to understand the concept of affirmative and ongoing consent. But that aside, well-being of women aside, say the boy's gay. It's no better if he just thinks men are supposed to have sex, so I should just do it, even if I'm not into it. That's going to cause a whole host of problems, not just in terms of his relationship to sex, in relationship to his own body, in his relationship to his own sense of self-worth, his self-concept, the sense that the world gives a shit. And not just like, they don't say the world doesn't give a shit about me because that's too shameful. They say the world doesn't give a shit about men. And part of that is because they don't feel like they can say, I don't feel cared about as an individual. And to everybody watching here, you matter as an individual just because you are a person. And a lot of people don't believe me. I get big pushback on that. If you feel dehumanized, that matters. If you don't want to do something and you feel pressured into it by anyone. And yeah, there are women who do pressure men into sex because certain women have internalized the idea that they only have value because some man wants to fuck them. And I push back on that really hard because that is not healthy for anybody. It's not. It's not. It's not healthy for men. It's not healthy for women. Your worth is not determined solely or primarily by your so-called sexual desirability or, you know, how much sex you've had or with how many people. No, none of that. It's fun, or it should be fun. But that's the thing. If you have to do it, if it's something you have to just get over with as like a prerequisite for manhood, you're not really going to be present in it. You're not really going to be enjoying it for what it is. You're not going to connect because it's just sort of, oh, thank God I'm not a loser anymore, right? And that's really unhealthy. And we owe it to all men to say, look, if you're not ready, that's cool. If you want to wait, that's cool. Don't do anything that you don't feel good about. But what if I never get a chance again? It's okay. That's probably not true, but it's better. Personally, I think it's better to never have sex than have a sexual experience that makes you feel awful afterwards. And okay, easy to say when you haven't done it, but like, trust me, it's better to not have any experience than to have one that makes you feel used or coerced or even in physical pain afterwards. I really have issues with games that kind of make a ha ha ha, it was so rough, he's walking funny the next day. Personally, for me not to be very, very disturbed by that, I need something in the gameplay that allows you to actively consent to rough sex. Not, you know, both Baldur's Gate 3 with Lae'zel, and I like Lae'zel otherwise. This scene just, it was badly done. Iron Bull and Dragon Age Inquisition. The fact that you go, okay, let's see what happens in this cutscene. And then it's, well, this is gonna hurt. And you don't get the chance to go, well, okay, then I'm out. Right? It's just... And there's an issue with games that you get an achievement. I think they've taken that out now, but the original Dragon Age Origins, another game I love, but the fact that you got an achievement for the romances, I'm like, no, that should be a purely emotional journey. There shouldn't be some sort of tangible reward in game that sends an unhealthy message. And we spend all this time focusing on the unhealthy messages it sends to women. But we don't focus on the unhealthy messages it sends to men outside of, oh, this is bad for women. We got to talk about this stuff as it's not great for men themselves. And yes, you know, we get the added benefit of having the issues with how men treat women get better. But we have to treat men as having value and meaning and worth as themselves, as individuals and as men. Not just, we have to stop them from becoming potential predators for women. And the male clients I work with, well, all the clients I work with, but my client base is mostly male. I say to them, what are your values? And we figure those out and we validate those values. It's like, those are good values. Now, here's the way, because there's an idea of shadow work where, okay, this is a good thing here, but then there are certain things, like somebody who's incredibly conscientious, for instance, and a hard worker, there's a risk that they're going to be taken advantage of because they do shit jobs that nobody else wants to do without complaint. And so people just get them to do all the shit jobs. And we work on those boundaries, right? But then we go, what are you good at? And that's different than your values. Because somebody could say, well, I value honesty, but I realize I lie more than I'm comfortable with, right? Like, what are you good at? Again, a lot of the guys who can't say anything else good about themselves, I go, well, you're a hard worker. You're here. A lot of these guys are weekly, right? You're here every week. You're conscientious. You show up on time. They show up on time more than I do. They show up on time. They do the work. They're taking it seriously. That's conscientious. If you don't have that, no other value is going to do very much because you're not doing the work. I'm like, okay, yeah, I can agree with that. That has value. That is a good quality, that you don't have to be the best at it. That is something you're good at that no one can take away. And guys, if you want a monogamous relationship, or even if the favorite part of sex for you is the cuddling afterwards, that is a good thing. And so many guys think they're weird or it's shameful that the best part of the sex is the closeness, and our brains release chemicals, but that's oxytocin, right? The hug hormone. That is good. That is healthy. That tells me that somebody is individuated and they can connect with other humans. Instead of, let's fuck. But what do we see in all the goddamn superhero media? Like, they had Star-Lord, meaningless sex, Tony Stark, womanizing, like all this womanizing. Oh, but that's a flaw. But they do it as normal. Doesn't matter if it's a negative, if it's so common that it's normal. And this is a Western thing. And, you don't, that's why I love the Yakuza games. Kiryu's like, no, I'm out. He is not promiscuous in Yakuza. And those games are a breath of fresh air because those guys are really manly men, but in a very, very different way. I mean, God, they even had that scene in Love and Thunder where, I get it was a joke because it's Chris Hemsworth's real life wife, but it's the whole story about his love for Jane, right? And they still have him having a sexual encounter with a wolf woman. And this idea, these are men, so they fuck a lot. And, that whole thing about Captain America being a virgin. Part of me, I really liked that. And I wish they had just left it that the question was not answered. Because I do kind of like the idea that this very, old school type of masculinity wasn't defined by, oh yeah, he fucks. And it's so unhealthy. It is so unhealthy. Because one, that's something that both people need to be into. And two, that's got to feel something that you do to feel good about, not do to get it over with because of social pressure. That is so foundational to self-validation, that you do it because you want to and because you're ready, not because anybody's pushing you or you think you're a loser if you don't. We have to stop doing that to men. That's why I freaking loved in Dragon Age does have a lot of characters that, Alistair's a virgin. Fenris was a male victim of, they strongly implied sexual assault as long as other things. I mean, Astarion and Baldur's Gate 3 is like that. That game's got other problems, but Astarion, yeah. But, then there's, Solus, who, well, it's spoilers, so I won't spoil yet, but they do have characters, sex. I kind of like that in those games, the more defined by sex characters tend to be women. You know, Isabella, Morgan to an extent. The Morgan's very lonely, and that's a cool plot point. And I really enjoyed, much like Shondi in the Saints Row franchise, seeing Isabella grow up. And that's what makes me so disappointed in the people who just took that doing a Barv scene, because people haven't played the game and they've just seen YouTube clips. I'm like, this game is... No. In the context of Isabella's journey, where she's now all in on personal accountability, that is huge for a character that started as a female Captain Jack Sparrow, you know, who wasn't accountable for anything, who stole and ran away and lied and slept with people as a way of sort of controlling and misdirecting. She was very hedonistic. To see her grow up and go completely the other way was neat, you know? But she's old. She still looks unbelievably great in a bikini, but that's because she does push-ups as a way of saying she's sorry. You know, that's another element of it. She likes doing push-ups. That's not a hardship. But to see characters grow, I mean, games that span all those hours can do that in ways that a movie can't. But yeah, we really need to stop making the womanizing but immature and lonely guy the sort of default starting place. Why can't we just have... It's not even relevant, right? A guy can see themselves no matter in the character, no matter how much sex they've had. Because it's amazing how many guys tell me, you know, I haven't had any or a lot of sexual experience and I'm in my 30s. Women, I'm afraid women are going to be disappointed or this is going to be some problem. And it's funny because every woman I know goes, and this does not mean all women, because some women are stupid and superficial and bad, okay? Some women are just downright evil and like to destroy men's souls. They exist. Don't define yourselves by those women, okay? If a woman's going, oh, you're a pussy if you don't fuck me, that's a problem. That... Go the other way on that one. Like, what the fuck? But... I mean, that's a woman who's super internalized it. Men all want just one thing and they just want sex. And so if he doesn't want to fuck you, not make love to you, fuck you, right? If men don't want that, then you're a failure as a woman because that's all men want and you're gross and awful and, you know, you're a failure as a woman because that guy didn't want to use you as a cum dumpster. And that's part of the reason I go, okay, I'm fat and old and ugly and annoying and unfuckable and all those things that, you know, assholes like Hassan Piker say. So what? Right? I'm modeling the so the fuck what? Call me any name you want, so the fuck what? It is meaningless because I can't ask the people who watch my content to feel good about themselves despite those really shitty negative social judgments since I model the behavior. Like, what the fuck? So what? I have a lot to offer the world. You know? I'm good at my job. I think, reasonably entertaining just because I'm so weird. I have a stuffed opossum. And a completely creepy monkey. These things have value, right? And you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be anybody's ideal. You don't have to check these boxes. I guarantee you there's something about you that has worth because so many of the men that I talk, they're really good people. They're good men, but they're good people, right? They spend a lot of time protecting the world from themselves because they have such negative self-esteem. And it's a real privilege. It's humbling as shit to watch them grow and see their worth. It's so good. And you can too if you want to sign up for a Leanna Care session, you know, link in the description box below. But as I was saying, like, women who aren't red flags, you have no sexual experience, so what? Less mistakes to make, you know? It's like, okay, because everyone's different. Everybody likes different things. You should be talking about what people like and what people don't like and what people have done and what they like to do and, maybe have no experience with, but hey, help me through it. Those are the building blocks of good sex. That communication beforehand. And you never see that in media. You see someone walks in, he looks at her, she looks at him, jump cut, fucking. That's bad sex. That's bad sex. That's ego sex. So, again, guys, Men's Mental Health Month. What are your values? Pick 3. Your top values, your core values. Pick 3. More, it gets too messy. Because those values, if you need to make a judgment call, it's like, is this in keeping with my core values? It makes the choices a lot easier. And then, what's one thing you're good at? One thing you're good. You don't have to be the best at. Are you kind? Are you considerate? Are you helpful? Are you conscientious? Are you organized? Right? Everybody's good at something. What are you good at? Find that, and then when you're feeling lousy about yourself or you don't know what to do, you can solve the problem. You can figure out what to do based on your strengths. So, how can I apply conscientiousness or kindness to solve this problem? It works. Took me 10 years to figure that out on myself. I wish that was done more in therapy because, oh my God, it's super effective. Let's protect our boys' feelings and their emotions and their sense of selves more than we do. Let's protect our men's emotions and feelings and sense of selves the more than we do. It's up to all of us. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/Leanna K. Or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it. Coffee.com/Leanna K. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe to Manly Mondays.